Hey everyone, and welcome back. You know how much we love digging into these personal journeys in tech, right? And this one, well, let me tell you, this one starts with a classic prehistoric on the good old 486 PC.
Oh, no, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Takes you back, doesn't it?
Right. Our featured developer this time, they go way back with their story. From playing on PC to building software, we're talking floppy disks, RAM upgrades, the whole nine yards.
The nostalgia. But seriously, it's fascinating how those early experiences, especially with the tech itself, could really shape a path.
Totally. And for this developer, that path led straight to a computer science degree. What do you think? Was that a no-brainer back then, or a bit of a leap into the unknown?
Well, think about it. You're going from dabbling with games to diving headfirst into the nuts and bolts of how it all works. Algorithms, data structures, maybe even a bit of assembly language thrown in for good measure.
Wow, yeah, that's a whole other level. And to top it off, the internet was just starting to take off at the same time. Talk about an exciting time to be learning about computers.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine? Here you are, getting a handle on these fundamental concepts, and suddenly the whole landscape of communication and technology is changing right before your eyes.
It's like stepping onto a moving train, right? You've got to
Yeah.
learn as you go, adapt to whatever comes your way.
Exactly. And speaking of adapting, our developer's first gig out of school was freelance, building websites with, wait for it, Internet Explorer 6 compatibility.
Oh no, IE6. You're kidding. That's the stuff of nightmares for developers even now.
Right. Talk about a baptism by fire. But hey, it's a good reminder that what's cutting edge today might be, shall we say, vintage tomorrow.
Too true. But this first taste of the professional world was just the beginning. They landed their first office job, and that's where things get really interesting. They said they learned something like 90% of what they used over the next decade, right there in that one job.
That's incredible. It really speaks to the importance of finding those environments where you can really dive in, make mistakes, and learn from some great mentors.
And they did. In fact, the developer talked about how supportive their team was, how they tackled challenges together, and even formed lifelong friendships.
There's something special about those early career connections, isn't there? You're all figuring things out together, supporting each other's growth.
Absolutely. But then, and this might sound familiar to some of our listeners, they decided to hit pause on their degree to focus on work. And, spoiler alert, they never went back to finish it.
It's a tough choice, but sometimes you just got to go with what feels right? And in this case, diving headfirst into the work clearly paid off.
And remember, all this is happening against the backdrop of the internet just exploding in popularity. What a time to be building a career in software. But that's not all, folks. The story takes another turn as our developer faces a whole new set of challenges and opportunities. Picture this. You land a job at a startup, right in the thick of it.
Oh, yeah,
It's all hands on deck, constant learning curve.
absolutely. You're not kidding.
That's where our developer found themselves, neck deep in coding, deployments, even server configuration.
Oh, the full spectrum. They weren't just coding away in a corner, huh?
Not at all. This was trial by fire. They were working with MS, SQL Server, .NET, C Sharp.
Building up quite the toolkit there.
Right. And hold on, it gets better. They got their first taste of agile development.
Ah, the wild west of sprints and iterations.
Exactly. And let's not forget version control. They were getting to grips with TFS and Tortoise SVN.
Essential tools of the trade, those.
Huh.
But you know what often happens? Your head's down in one area,
Uh-huh.
and then, bam, a new technology pops up and throws you for a loop.
And that's putting it mildly.
Right. For our developer, it was AngularJS that was their turning point, sparking a whole new passion for front-end development.
It's like a fork in the road, isn't it? One minute you're deep in databases, the next you're all about user interfaces.
And, it's those twists and turns that make these journeys so interesting. But hold on, because this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, on the edge of my seat.
Remember how we talked about connections being important? Well, our developer recommended a colleague for a job, and guess what?
What happened?
It blossomed into a multi-year project for both of them.
No way. Talk about a chain reaction.
It just goes to show sometimes the smallest actions can have a ripple effect. But then, as we all know, 2020 hit.
The year the world changed.
Exactly. And unfortunately, our developer was caught in a wave of layoffs.
That must have been rough.
It was a tough time for everyone. The tech industry wasn't spared from the turmoil. It's funny how life takes you in circles sometimes.
Tell me about it.
Remember our developers' early days with AngularJS? Turns out that front-end detour was just the beginning. They really dove headfirst into React and became a specialist in that area.
Wow. So they went from dabbling to full-on expertise.
Exactly. But here's where their story really resonated with me. They started talking about struggling with imposter syndrome.
Oh, that feeling of not being good enough. I think we've all been there.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so common, especially in a field that moves as fast as tech. You're constantly learning, always feeling a little bit behind.
Right. You look around and everyone seems like an expert except you.
Exactly. And our developer, even with all their experience, they felt it too. But you know what they did? They kept pushing forward, kept learning.
That's so important to acknowledge those feelings but not let them paralyze you.
Couldn't agree more. And it's inspiring to see how they channeled that into growth. To fast forward to today, they're still specializing in React, but they've also explored backend with Node.js and Go.
Always expanding their horizons. That's the thing about this field. There's always something new to learn.
Absolutely. And what's exciting is that our developers looking ahead to the future, especially the potential of AI.
It's amazing to think how much AI is already changing the game, and it's only just the beginning.
It really makes you wonder what the world of software development will look like in a few years, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, reflecting on this whole journey, it strikes me how it all goes back to those early experiences.
Those sparks of curiosity, those moments that light the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like playing prehistoric on that old 486. Who knew where that would lead?
It's a powerful reminder that we should never underestimate those early influences, whether it's ourselves or the young people in our lives.
Absolutely. You never know what seemingly small thing might spark a lifelong passion. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. What were those early experiences for you? What sparked your interest in technology in whatever form it took?
It's a great question to ponder because those moments, those might just hold the key to your own unique path.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep that curiosity alive, and who knows, you might just surprise yourself with where you end up.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, thanks for joining us for another Deep Dive.